Hello folks, so I recently got into an argument over the whole issue on Donald Trump and everything with RockingMrE, who purports to be a libertarian, claims to support minarchism and classical liberalism. I'm not going to sit here and say that just because you may support controlled immigration, that you're an out and out socialist and you're a Marxist and you're this, that and the next thing. I'm not going to say that. Although it is important to say that all government controls are socialist. I personally support the free flow of immigration within a free market where there wouldn't be the welfare state and people have the right to bear arms and protect themselves. That's just the way things are. That's what I support. And basically what RockingMrE came out and said, he said that if I support the free flow of immigration within a free market, then I must be on the far left. You couldn't get more irrational than that. I remember having viewers coming to my channel and complaining about blocking Mr. E, and they would say that he would conflate certain things such as supporting gay marriage as somehow being a Marxist. For me, it's an oversimplification. At the end of the day, I support gay marriage. I don't see the issue with it. So long as the state doesn't get involved, leave them be. If they wish to get married, that is their free choice. And just because someone supports gay marriage, then he has this black and white picture view that somehow this must mean you are a Marxist. You couldn't get more irrational than that. I am entitled to my view that at the end of the day, there should be free flow immigration. I always said that there should be a temporary measure, a temporary control on immigration due to what government has caused with its war intervention. It's only natural you're going to have people who wish to come here and harm us. And so a temporary measure, a temporary control on immigration, it's not so much of a big issue, but making it permanent is the issue that I have. RockingMrE was basically feeding out misinformation to his viewers. And part of that misinformation that he was feeding his viewers was the fact that he's trying to claim that a free market economy is reliant upon other countries playing fairly. Absolute garbage. Absolute nonsense. Absolute pish. You couldn't talk more nonsense if you tried. This idea that just because of the bad practices that China is carrying out in itself, mass producing and dumping steel, etc., and causing problems to the United States, does not mean to say that it should prevent the United States being a free market economy. But what was his main argument? Okay, his main argument was basically for protectionist tariffs. His main argument, and this is the reason why he supported protectionist tariffs, okay? If you don't understand, protectionist tariffs in recorded history were the very thing that caused war, okay? Because what it was forcing domestic consumers to buy domestic goods, and you're setting a block on a foreign country from freely trading with your nation and hindering their growth and hindering what they sell, etc. Now, we understand that China has not exactly been playing, fairly and stuff like that. I comprehend that. But, as the saying goes, two wrongs do not make a right. And at the end of the day, having a free market economy is not going to hinder the United States. And if anything, having a free market, countries would become heavily reliant upon the United States, and especially when the United States really gets manufacturing going again, and of course the opportunity flourishes, investment would flood right into the country. But his argument for the protectionist tariffs was based upon the fact that it was to do with keeping jobs in the country and ensuring that manufacturing jobs would not go elsewhere. This was a clear indication to me that he really does not have a clue what a free market is. He doesn't even understand the fundamental basics of what a free market is. That immediately told me that. Because why do you require a protectionist tariff in order to keep jobs in the country and have manufacturing within the country? In other words, his argument was based on the fact that in order to have an economy with more jobs, with more manufacturing, you require a protectionist tariff. I'm sorry, but to place a protectionist tariff and say that that is what creates more jobs and that is what creates more manufacturing and that's what's going to protect the United States, to say that that is something you place above a free market economy is anti-free market within itself. It's not only anti-free market, it's regressive. And the reason it's regressive is because it could not compete with a free market. Because a free market is so fiercely competitive. The opportunity is so vast. The manufacturing is so vast that the opportunity within the country just simply blows the whole idea of having protectionist tariffs right out the water. They wouldn't need to care of what China is doing. If China tries to lay on blocks on the United States, that's their personal choice. All they would be doing is harming themselves. A free market economy in the United States of America would be left laughing at China, not the other way around. They would not require a protectionist tariff. The very fact he claimed to support a free market, the very fact he claimed to be this minarchist, the very fact he claimed to be a classical liberal, yet is trying to place the support of Donald Trump and protectionist tariffs above the free market, just goes to tell me he doesn't understand what he's even talking about. His main argument, I reiterate again, and I understand exactly what he was saying to me, because this was his initial argument. His initial argument was that we need protectionist tariffs in order to keep the jobs within the country and to ensure that manufacturing stays in the country. Why would you need to do that when a free market creates a vast amount of opportunity, so much so to the point that it creates far more opportunity, far more manufacturing than something ever could in a style of economy where you're laid with protectionist tariffs. Now, if you don't understand American history, you will know who the type of person was who supported the protectionist tariffs. Oh, surprise, surprise. It just so happened to be the very man himself, Alexander Hamilton. That's correct. The very founder of crony capitalism within the United States. This was, of course, the very man who supported big government, supported the corporate subsidies, supported the protectionist tariffs. He supported the powerful state to, go to war. He was a war interventionist. Now, if you were to look at Donald Trump, this sounds exactly like Donald Trump. I don't know if Donald Trump supports the big government. And it's all well speaking the rhetoric about supporting deregulation. Yeah, that's all well speaking the rhetoric. But is he going to do that in practice? Now, we could look at the likes of Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan. They were very good at speaking anti-communist propaganda. They were very good at speaking the rhetoric of free market capitalism. But when they were in practice, it was the complete opposite. I concede to the fact that at least with Ronald Reagan, he did do a fair amount with, of course, the financial regulations. I had looked, and I could look more extensively, If there was deregulation, fair enough, he held to his word at least on that. But he wasn't perfect. I don't believe anybody is perfect, though. I think that's important to say. But with, of course, Ronald Reagan, he wasn't exactly this. He wasn't exactly someone you would claim as being the free market capitalist as he said to basically be. And that's the point, because as we see every 4 years, whether it's in Britain or whether it's in the United States of America, at the end of the day, how often do you see politicians say one thing, but when they're in power, they do the opposite? It happens every time. It happens all the time. Now, I comprehend the United States of America is in a serious mess. I understand and I comprehend that Donald Trump is up against someone like Hillary Clinton. I know that Hillary Clinton is a great danger, right? I understand that, I comprehend that. That is not my issue. At the end of the day, I can understand some people may view Donald Trump as an open door. But here is what my issue is. My issue with Donald Trump supporters is the fact that two things. Number one, they're trying to link Donald Trump to libertarianism. And number two, they are tarnishing the name libertarian. They're actually changing the name libertarian to be something that isn't libertarian. It's anti-libertarian. Now, for the type of the type of supporters of libertarianism who understand this, who just support him as a stepping stone, fair enough. I've no issue with those type of people. But for the type of people who are trying to call Donald Trump some sort of, libertarian defender of the free market economy, they are having a laugh. No one in their right mind, even that of, RockingMrE, for him to come out and basically call himself a classical liberal and defender of minarchism, but he openly supports the United States of America laying on protectionist tariffs to block China and trade, just because it's playing unfairly. Two wrongs do not make a right, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't care what people say, because I do not stand for things like protectionist tariffs. It is anti-capitalist in nature. It is opposing free trade. If, of course, China wishes to play unfairly, let them. They're only going to harm themselves. They're not going to harm the United States when it's a free market. Investment would flood into the United States, and the United States would flourish from other countries that would become so heavily reliant upon their trade. And with the vast production through vast manufacturing in the United States, other countries would, of course, heavily rely upon that. And of course, with free market money, the United States purchasing power and monetary value would vastly increase. Now, here's another important point. Another important point to address is the very fact that the reason why George Osborne and David Cameron had went to China to strike a trade deal, to strike a partnership and trade with China, was simply because, not because of corruption, but because the United Kingdom is over £5 trillion in debt. And it's cheaper for us to get China to produce it for us. That's why the manufacturing jobs were going offshore to China. It wasn't because of corruption. It was because we cannot afford to produce it ourselves. So it was going to benefit us to get China to do it for us, so that when they produce for us and we get back, we benefit and we profit from that. That was the purpose of it. So with regards to Great Britain, the reason why the devaluation of the currency was happening in Great Britain was simply because the fact that Britain needs to greatly reduce its debt level, and that's one of the ways you do so. So they need to reduce the debt level, rebalance the books, get manufacturing back to Britain and get manufacturing going again. That is vitally important, and that's part of the reason why they're devaluing the currency. But of course, as I say, Britain was heavily dependent upon China because we're £5 trillion in debt. We're in a serious mess, and it is cheaper for us to, of course, get China to produce for us. This is something that he seems to completely ignore, because a country like the United States of America is currently sitting probably about over $20 trillion in debt. The country is financially broke. It cannot afford to go to all these wars, etc. And that's another story, because here is Donald Trump wanting to go and bomb ISIS. Now, it tells me that these people have not learned their lesson. One of the core libertarian values is anti-war. Right, that's one of the core libertarian values of, it doesn't matter whether you want to talk about classical liberalism or minarchism that RockingMrE purports to, basically claims to support. It doesn't matter what you want to talk about in literature, going even back to Murray and Rothbard or any libertarian, they will tell you their stance is on anti-war. And there's a very good reason, and it's because of the fact of all to do with, bombing innocent people. Now, the issue with war intervention is the fact that it doesn't solve problems. The only time war is a requirement is when you're in self-defense, is when you're defending yourself, right? At the end of the day, the United States government financed and created ISIS. They basically created ISIS. There's a whole ocean dividing the United States from the European continent, for Christ's sakes. They're in a good geographical position. They shouldn't be, or they shouldn't feel threatened as such. As a temporary measure, sure, have controlled immigration, but I'm going to go on to this most important point. Because Donald Trump was saying how he was anti-war and he didn't support the war in Iraq, right? Get this. He did not support the war in Iraq, but there he is supporting to go in and bomb ISIS. To go in and bomb ISIS. What's the difference? What is the difference? Are you going to tell me that the difference is because they're fighting terrorists? Is that what you're going to tell me? Well, let me tell you this. When they went in and bombed Iraq, it opened a can of worms. And that is all that's going to happen with more war. More war does not solve the problem. It just creates a bigger problem and prolongs the problem and creates more hatred. It doesn't get rid of the hatred. It creates more of it. You create more resentment. It does not create a solution. It does not create, or shall I say, it doesn't solve the problem. You don't solve a problem by using the means of force. It's a bit like in a relationship with someone. And let's say you're in a relationship. Do you solve the problem by beating the person up? Does beating the person up and physically using violence, does that, solve the problem? That doesn't solve the problem. That just creates a bigger problem. That's not how you solve the problem. I agree that, of course, ISIS is a problem in itself. There's no question of that. But at the end of the day, you need to pull away from all the war intervention, plus the fact the United States of America can't afford it. They can't afford to go in all these wars. And the funny thing is, there he was, Donald Trump, contradicting himself, basically admitting that we cannot afford to go to all these wars. So, he's very fickle. He jumps from one thing to another and he doesn't know where he stands. And the other issue that I have is economic incompetence, and that's just another story. But this is the issue that I have. It's taking the name of libertarianism and it's basically tarnishing the reputation of its name. And I don't care what they call me. They could say, I'm delusional. They could call me all the names in the book. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not interested. But for someone such as himself to basically come out with the rhetorical nonsense that he did, and to even come out in support of, things such as the protectionist tariffs, to even support such a thing and then claim that he's a supporter of the free market, he's a laughing stock. And to conflate libertarian values, to conflate anyone with supporting libertarian values, for example, if a libertarian supports gay marriage, I'm sorry, it's just idiotic to say that someone supporting gay marriage automatically classifies them as a Marxist. That is just so stupid. It really is so stupid. It's ignorant. It is beyond ignorant. It really is. Absolute stupidity. But I felt I had to address those main points that I wanted to get across. I don't deny the fact ISIS is a problem, but I don't believe war is the answer. I just think war is just going to create more problems. That's just it. That's the sad truth. That's it. You should have learned from that with regards to Iraq. The war in Iraq was no different. It doesn't solve problems. It just opens a can of worms, and you could say, well, it's because they get rid of, Saddam Hussein, and yeah, you could use that excuse as much as you want. It doesn't change the fact that when you go in and try to use the means of force, all you're doing is creating an even bigger mess. And most importantly, it's immoral, because you're taking innocent people's lives with it. Okay, you could use the argument that ISIS would take innocent people's lives, but that's just it. There's a difference between terrorists such as ISIS taking people's lives and you supporting your own government going in and bombing innocent people's lives. There's a massive difference. You're not terrorists. Two wrongs do not make a right. If they wish to go and cause harm to innocent people, that's their free choice. But remember this, it was governments that were funding it. That's why you need to limit the government. You need to take the government's power away. So the solution to the problem is the free market. And maybe a temporary measure on controlled immigration, but I don't support that permanently. And no, supporting free flow immigration does not make me on the far left. That's just unbelievable how anybody could even claim such an irrational thing. It's beyond belief. So anyway, folks, I've put out enough information, enough as it is. I've rattled on long enough. If you get any questions you would like to ask me, feel free to comment below. Just bear in mind that yes, I understand the desperate state the United States is in. Yes, I know there's very little choice with regards to there being Donald Trump. I understand that, I comprehend, but for anyone to classify that man as the be-all and end-all and trying to actually link him to the true meaning of libertarianism, they're a laughing stock. They really are. And one more thing is the very fact that no, controlling immigration does not benefit your economy. At the end of the day, your economy would double in economic growth if you had free flow immigration. So that's part of why I support free flow immigration, because your economy would grow much faster. It would do better off with free flow immigration. Culture is something important. I've never denied that. I understand the value of that. But look at the United States of America. It's a melting pot. It has its cultures. It's had no problem. And education is actually the key and core thing that, maintains a country and how you prevent subversion. But most importantly, and this is the last argument that I will address, there was this rhetorical nonsense that, if we had a free market with free flow immigration, and apparently that there wasn't the protectionism and stuff like this, all hell would break loose and they would come in and they would subvert and all the rest of this nonsense. Well, let me just bring you back to the whole issue on controls by government. Did the government prevent illegal immigrants getting into the country? No, it did not. Did the government prevent illegals getting a hold of marijuana? No, it did not. Did the government stop people getting a hold of guns, especially in the most strict gun control states? Did the government stop that? No, it never. It didn't stop any of it. So your government controls don't work. They're a failure. It's actually socialism all in one. Socialism's always been a failure, and that's what, socialism's largely all about, is these government controls. It's a bit like the Berlin Wall. It was a failure. It didn't work. Controls do not work. They will always find a way around it. If they're desperate to reach your country, they will always find a way around it. You could make the argument, you could make it difficult for them. That's not going to change the fact that at the end of the day, they're always going to find a way around it. Now, those type of people could come to your country and you claim they would subvert this, that, and the next thing. Well, that's the whole point of having a free market economy and separating the government from the economy. Taking the economy out the hands of government and taking the power of government away from it over your economic life. Because then, if people do come to your country, they cannot influence the government. They don't have the power to do so. It's a bit like how you would do that to prevent lobbyists lobbying the government. That's why you take the power of government away from them. I'm not saying we should have anarchy, although I'm not closed-minded and I don't, shut off the idea of, anarcho-capitalism. But at the end of the day, as a classical liberal that believes in small and limited government, I don't believe in government having anything to do with our economic life, and I think it's vitally important to have a limited and small accountable government, one that does not hold the power over those things that cannot be influenced over those issues. That is the main point that I basically wanted to address. And this is the thing. What difference does it make? Okay, you could talk about numbers coming to a free market through free flow immigration. It doesn't matter, because your controls is not going to make much of a difference. Thousands of illegal immigrants get into the United States every year, and that's not going to stop, thousands of people, getting into the country even with controlled immigration. And of course, those very type of people seeking to influence government. And that's the main issue. So, I've covered all the main points, and that's my view on everything. But for me, it's just simply irrational. At the end of the day, I support the free market. I support the true liberty of a nation, and that's that. Last but not least, to even say that's supporting recorded history, that's been proven in recorded history, to call recorded history something theoretical where you place theory above practice is just irrational. How the hell can someone call recorded history that's already been proven as something theoretical? I have no goddamn idea. No idea whatsoever. What the hell do you think the United States was founded upon? It's a melting pot. That's how the United States of America was founded. It's recorded history. We've got it there. The recorded history proved it. That's how the United States of America was founded. It was founded on that mass foreign immigration. And the free market. That's exactly what it was founded upon. So anyway, I've went on long enough, and hope you've enjoyed the video. Any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. So thank you for watching. Cheers.